guys, it's me, April with Hair 101. I am here again because I made a video showing you guys how to do a haircut if you're in quarantine and you're kind of desperate and you didn't have all the tools. And then what happened shortly after that is I started seeing a lot of people get into that bind and watching Instagram videos, lives, like they were just like, I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna cut hair for the first time. And I like, okay, this is amazing, I'm gonna watch this. While I was watching these people, I realized some very common mistakes that people make that will make a world of difference if they apply these skills I'm about to teach you guys to their hair cutting skills. It's something that's so simple, it may not seem that important, and I didn't even realize to mention it to you guys in the other video because it's just second nature to me because I was taught in school to start like that. So I was never doing it wrong, and so I just got into the habit naturally. But if you're doing these things and you change it, I promise your haircuts are going to improve. So the number one mistake I've been seeing is they'll put on their attachment, whatever, that's fine. You get to pick what length you're gonna do. And then they start and they're doing okay. And then they just keep going. And then they do this. They grab the head and to get the other side, they just start. And I'm telling you, I see this almost every time I've seen this. Because they're just like, oh, I'm just cutting the hair. Oh, I can't see that side, come here. So number one tip, you guys, is to stand directly in front of where you're actually cutting. Both legs on the ground. You're going to have everything that you're working on right directly in front of your eyes, in front of your hands. That way you're saving your shoulder, your wrist, and it's gonna look so much better because you have way more control. So as you're cutting this, if you don't have a chair that spins, like this, then you're going to move your feet. So if you start here, then you're going to take a step, start there, take a step, start there. You're going to keep going around, switch the clipper so it's not hitting them in the face and not tingling until you're all the way over to the other side. And the same thing with cutting. You're going to start back on, if you're right-handed, the right side. If you're left-handed, you can start on the left side, it doesn't really matter. And then you're going to be grabbing the hair and working on cutting it. And then you're going to be walking backwards all the way around the head until you get all the way to this side. And that way you're doing the same motion and you're using the same guide all the way around. If I were to be trying to cut that side of the hair like this, all of a sudden now I'm cutting from the longer point to the shorter point, and it's going to have a heavy weight line on this side. So hopefully, even if that's the only thing you learn from this video, it'll be worth it. But hang in there, guys, because I have a few more tips. So the next one is, I've seen this 1,000 times, you guys. I've even done this myself. On my first haircut to my brother, I did this exact same thing. You don't have a cape, so you're like, oh, I'll grab a garbage bag. Not a terrible idea, but the worst thing I've seen people do is pop a hole in the top and stick it over the head, and then it's like this big gap hole because the head is bigger than the neck. And then they pop holes for the arms out like a shirt. Guys, that doesn't really do anything. If you're gonna do that, you might as well just say, hey, take off your shirt, we'll give you a haircut, and then go take a shower. You don't have to have a cape, especially if it's your kids or your husband. Like, I would suggest just not using anything. Or using the bag and cutting it open so it's bigger, wrapping it around the neck and taping it. That would be a much better option if they didn't want to have hair on them and be itchy during the haircut. So I've been seeing a lot of you doing it in your kitchen, and I think that like we naturally just think the kitchen's the best place to do it because you usually don't have carpet or rugs in the kitchen, and you just think, oh, I'll sweep it up. But here's the thing, I will tell you, if you're a hairstylist, you know this, hair travels and it is airborne for a very long amount of time, and it will be everywhere. You will open your silverware drawer, it will be in your silverware drawer. I'm not even kidding you guys, it will take you months to clean it out. The best place to do a haircut is going to be outside, and the birds will use the hair as parts of their nest. Like, I wouldn't worry too much about that, and you still can sweep it up. If it's super bad weather or windy, I would choose a garage next. And then if you don't have a garage, I mean, last resort, I think I would go to the kitchen. I would choose a bathroom if you have a big enough bathroom to do it in. I wouldn't do it on carpet because it does burrow in. It's very, like once you cut hair off of head, it's very sharp on both sides, and it can actually give you hair slivers, and it can burrow into fabrics and carpet. So If the kitchen is the only place you have that works, fine, do it. That's okay. But I'm telling you, it'll take a long time to clean up. So be smart on your location and try to choose somewhere that doesn't have fabrics and carpet, but it's not your kitchen. Here's my next tip, you guys. And this is something that obviously, if it's your first haircut, you're gonna do your best. And 99% of the time, guys, I'm just like so proud of you guys. Actually, all of the time. 100% of the time when I've been seeing you guys, I've just been so proud, because unless you just give up and leave the other side of the hair long, it's okay to fail and it's not perfect. It will grow back and your hairstylist can fix it when you go back and they're working again. I've seen this 100 times and I'm gonna give you a little education really fast. When you're doing a typical taper, and this doesn't go if you're trying to do a mohawk, because if you're trying to do a mohawk, obviously you're gonna go past this roll of the head. But when you're doing a typical basic men's tapered haircut, you're going to have to be aware of what the shape of the head is and the roll of the head. And the roll of the head, I'm gonna just explain it really simply to you. If you take a flat comb and put it right against the face, as soon as that comb is not touching the head anymore, that is the roll of the head. So that's where his head starts to roll. His head is not a box. His head is not a square. I can't just keep following that curve around when you're doing your taper. I've seen so many people just start tapering and they go zzz, all the way up to here, and then they do like a flick, trying to like blend it. If you're trying to blend up in here, it's not gonna work, guys. The blending is happening down here below the roll of the head. So be very conservative when you have this, especially if you have like open clippers like this. I'm sorry, is that grabbing you? I'm trying to stay away. You're going to be doing this little flick of the wrist and practice for a while. Stand where you're cutting and just without the clippers on, you're just gonna rest the clipper on the face and then just flick up with your wrist. Obviously, I'm not doing it right now because it's not on and it would just snag his hair and pull, but this is all your wrist is doing. And it's just kind of flick, flick, flick. And it's really only cutting the first like inch or two right in here, barely above the eyebrows. So work on that area first, barely above the eyebrows. You can go all the way around the head to the other side, just barely above the eyebrow. And then there's gonna be a heavy line in there, but that's when you can go back in with your longer clipper attachment and blend up a little bit more, or shear over comb and you can kind of take out some of the weight with that. Or you could even take your fingers and drape your hand over the head like this and pinch it. And then when the hair is short right here, this is what you're gonna be using as your guide. So anytime you're using this guide, you're going to be looking at this hair that's really short just by the tips of your fingers and cutting up from that. So like I said, you're going to keep doing that all the way around. Keep moving backwards, walking backwards as you go, and just keep doing that, cutting it. And you might have to go through it a couple times if you notice there's a couple like little long spots that you didn't get, but take small sections and just slowly move around. Don't try to focus on the whole haircut all at once. You're just gonna do it in zones. So zone number 1 is going to be anything right above the eyebrow and below. And then work on the next section up where you're just kind of cutting it so it gets a little bit longer. And then you can work on your top and blend everything up into the top haircut. Another tip, another mistake I see really often that people kind of just freak out and then they freeze, is if you accidentally take the clipper and knock out a piece a little bit too short in a spot, and then they just kind of panic and they're like, oh my gosh, I don't know what to do. Well, you can blend the whole entire haircut shorter and just start over at the bottom and get everything short and blend it a little higher and work on that. But if it's a big enough mistake that you'd have to shave the head to start over, you guys can just like try to blend it the best you can. Don't be too hard on yourself. I'm gonna keep watching your guys' live videos because I think it's super helpful to me to know what to teach you guys and how to help you improve. And if you have clippers that are catching hair and like pulling and it's painful, then you need to make sure that you're either buying a new blade for that clipper, make sure that it's clean and oiled. I know a lot of you have had them sitting in the cupboard for 10 years and you're just digging them out. Make sure you're using a clipper oil or some kind of lubricant, because those blades are moving very quickly, and if they're rusted or not clean and have debris in them, they're going to catch and kind of lock, and that's when the pulling is going to happen on the hair. You can also order a new pair on Amazon if your pair is outdated. Hopefully we're not doing this kind of thing for too much longer. Your hairstylists love you and they can't wait to get back to work, and if you can find any way to support them, then do it, because they're hurting right now too. I know the beauty industry is hurting really bad right now, especially in places where they've been closed down. I know a lot of places are still like have options. And that was another thing I wanted to hurry and talk to you guys about is, if you see another hairstylist that's working, don't be mad and angry at her. Be happy, because she probably lives in an area where it's okay. Like in Utah County, we weren't forced to shut down salons. They were allowed to do it. They just needed to take a few extra precautions, make sure they didn't have any symptoms, use a mask, not have more than one person in the salon at a time. And then in Salt Lake County, they had actually closed down all the salons. So don't start judging everyone. Don't start judging and fighting with each other. Send love, send encouragement, be happy for someone if they're able to keep working, and stay safe out there, you guys. I'm gonna show you a couple more tips with girls' haircuts. I'm gonna just use myself as a model. You're done, bud. Another thing I wanted to address was the quarantine bang cut challenge, which I think is super fun actually, but I've seen so many hilarious videos of people totally screwing this up, and I wanted to give you a couple tips. If you're going to try this, here's my tips for you. The number one tip, you guys, do not put tension on the hair, like tons of tension on the hair uncut, because guess what? It is going to shrink like 50% or more. I've seen girls take their bangs down and they're just like, oh yeah, that looks about right. And then they go like this, and then okay, that's about good. And then they like twist it like 1,000 times. You guys, how much tension is that? It's so much tension. And then they go right at the bridge of their nose and they go, and then it spikes up, and they have baby bangs that are legit like this short. Please, 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 for the love of all sanity, do not do that. So you're going to want to do things a little differently. You can do this successfully. I'm not going to do it today because I don't want bangs, but maybe you do. The first thing I'm going to tell you is to make sure you don't have any crazy ski-wampus calyx up front. If you do, just trust me, skip it. Your hairstylist can figure out a way for you to have bangs and make it work, but it's a lot more difficult. I would just say it's not for you right now. If you don't have any crazy calyx going on and you want to try it, here's what you do. I would just do a couple inches back, as thick as you want them, and you want to make sure that you're taking a triangle shape. And it doesn't have to be perfect. That's not the biggest problem I've been seeing. The biggest problem I've been seeing is the tension. But here's another tip. You don't have to twist the hair over and over and over again. I'm telling you guys, even taking it flat like this and doing one twist, that's great, and that's going to give you the curtain look. And you can always go a little shorter. You cannot make it go longer. So trust me on this one. You're going to pinch it together, and it is smart to get a pinch going on here, because as you're pulling this hair and over directing it to the middle of your nose, it's naturally going to fall a little bit longer than the hair that's cut right into the center of your nose. You can choose to do it just as a pinch and cut it, but do not cut it at the bridge of your nose. Go down closer to the tip of your nose, right in here, and do the blunt cut right there. Whether or not you decide to do a flip, the flip is just gonna give you a little bit more dramatic curtain, but I would cut it right down in here, and you're not pulling super hard. And then if it's a little bit too long, you can take a comb and your shears or scissors or whatever, and you can kind of just like texture the ends of it and make it look really nice and soft. You're gonna wanna probably still have like more of a solid line, but even just doing that little bit of point cutting until you think it looks pretty is going to be enough to get it shortened a little bit and you can totally see where you're going with it from then on. And then you'll know how to trim them when it comes time too. You don't need to do the pinch twist again. If you're just trimming them every couple weeks, you can just kind of blow dry them nice and straight forward, and then take your comb, and then you're just gonna kind of go in there and just trim them up, tiny little point cuts like this. And I hope that helps you guys. Good luck. I want to do another video explaining a few little color hacks for you guys, and I'm gonna do that too. But for now, I hope this helped you. I hope it was short and sweet enough for you to pay attention and learn something. Comment below if it was helpful. I'm so sorry that you guys are having to go through all of this right now. Remember, support your stylist as much as you can and send them some love, even if it's just a text. If you don't have money to send them a little extra love tip right now, you can send them a text and tell them how much you appreciate them and miss them. Because guess what? They're going to be fixing all of the things that we practice doing in quarantine. So you better send them some love. And I'm grateful for all of you guys watching here, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.